grant him your power.
What is up, YouTube? It's RSMario here, bringing you another Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom video. Alright, so of course, we have a pretty interesting video for you today. Now, I'm not necessarily going to be going into any of the news about Tears of the Kingdom. I know that the game did sell like 10 million copies in like 3 days or whatever, which is amazing. But I did want to talk about this particularly. I call Tears of the Haters, because while there have been a ton of people throwing praise at Tears of the Kingdom, some of it is undue because the game does have its fair share of issues, which I want to talk about in a completely different video. But the salt has been real though, real funny. And I like a good level of salt. So we're gonna talk about that today. Of course, if you want to continue getting videos like this from me, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell button, do all that good stuff that YouTube requires you to do to continue getting videos from me. Follow me at twitter.com/rsmario128. Check out my second channel, the Loot Box Hero, for a different style of content. Let's get to it. And so our next contestant bringing a sacrifice to the Salt God today is Endymion.
What's up, everyone? It's Endymion, and as you are definitely aware, the new Zelda game is now out in the wild, and I'm sure fans are devouring it for all it's worth this very second. While the new Zelda game is likely going to sell millions and be showered with praise, I feel like I'm alone in my viewpoint when it comes to Nintendo at large. But I'll just cut right to the chase. Look, Nintendo kinda sucks. I know that claim has been said in the past, but it's really how I feel. They're a company responsible for the nostalgia of millions. Yet they feel backwards when it comes to how modern day content creation is made. But beyond that nonsense, I genuinely feel that there is what I can only describe as Nintendo bias going on when it comes to Tears of the Kingdom's reviews. Obviously, reviews went live, the game got 10 out of 10 everywhere basically, and Nintendo fans are yet again frothing at the mouth for Kingdom. And even though I consider myself a Nintendo fan as well, since I was basically born,
Stop the cap!
Alright, so in his video, he kind of goes into how he believes the reviewers kind of overblow the reviews and review scores for Nintendo games, particularly Zelda games, due to nostalgia, and how, you know, they're blinded by the fact that they've grown up with these properties and these games, and so they kind of just prop them up a little bit more with their reviews and overblow just how good the games are. Now, in some cases, he might be right, you know what I'm saying, which I'm going to get into a little bit in the video, a little bit later in the video. But specifically with Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild, I mean, those games aren't based on nostalgia. Like, one of the biggest things that a lot of people don't like about Breath of the Wild particularly is that it breaks so far from the nostalgic formula of Zelda games that have been established since Ocarina of Time. You know what I'm saying? It breaks from that formula pretty drastically. And my theory is this is going to cause a big divide in the community, kind of like what happened with Fire Emblem Awakening. And how with Fire Emblem Awakening, like, we're going to have pre-Awakening. Like, in the Fire Emblem community, we have pre-Awakening and post-Awakening fans. We're going to have pre-Breath of the Wild and post-Breath of the Wild fans in the Zelda community. So saying that they were blinded by nostalgia with their review seems to be a little weird when this game breaks so hard from nostalgia. You know what I'm saying? And then he cites a review in his video that basically says as much, like that they don't like the game because it breaks from nostalgia.
The only review I genuinely read about Kingdom was from Ginfinity, who scored Kingdom a 6 out of 10. Not only will this review get the staff harassed by Nintendo fans, which yet again adds to how I think Nintendo fans are kind of insufferable when it comes to these things, but the problems Ginfinity had with the game will be drowned out by the robotic droning of entranced Nintendo fanboys who believe their nostalgia company can do no wrong.
Which is what I want to get into a little bit later. Then he also tells a story about how he bought Skyward Sword, and how, you know, the reviews were so glowing for Skyward Sword, and he bought it, and he bought a Switch at the same time, and the game was so bad that after he pushed all the way through with dozens of hours and went through all the dungeons, He sold the game and the console. That's how bad Skyward Sword was.
There's a few game franchises out there that I genuinely believe get preferential treatment from gaming review sites. Some include the God of War games, basically anything from Rockstar like Grand Theft Auto or Red Dead Redemption, and the main attraction Nintendo franchises like Mario or Zelda. Whenever a new game in one of these franchises comes out, it's like reviewers go from doing their jobs to just becoming fanboys, and they just start slinging tens like it's candy. A great example of this, and yeah, I'm reversing the footage again, is Skyward Sword. When I originally played that game, I bought a Wii for $100 a few years after it first came out, and I bought Skyward Sword with it since I hadn't played a proper Zelda game in a while. The reviews for Skyward Sword gave the game a glowing reception, calling it the best Zelda game ever for its time and being a masterpiece worthy of the series. It has a 93 on Metacritic and has the coveted must-play sticker slapped on it to really make you understand how great it is. Finally, when I sat down setting up my dinky little Wii box, I put the game in and began playing, and at first things seemed pretty fun, but as I continued to play it, my experience went from great to soured. As the game's rigid design felt dated, and Skyward Sword had this annoying design philosophy of making you return to every area you just did 3 times. There was also this big goober looking monster that you had to constantly seal away so it wouldn't get free, and at this point I was dozens of hours into Skyward Sword and felt like the Metacritic score was blatantly lying to me. And the game, which started off having a cool new villain for once, just throws away its new idea for Ganon for the millionth time. Once I reached the end of Skyward Sword, I was completely mentally checked out. The story was forgettable. I ended up hating the game so much that I ended up finishing the game, putting it back in its packaging, unplugging the Wii I just bought, and returning it all for store credit.
I will call cap on that because I've played through some bad games, but I don't usually finish them. Like the last game that was so bad I didn't finish it was Halo Infinite. All right, I played Halo Infinite, and eventually it just got boring, and I never finished it. I have no idea what happened at the end of that story, and that's the main reason I bought the game. You know what I'm saying? I didn't sell my PC for it, but I didn't finish it. So I'm not going to waste time on a game that I don't like or a game that is just not good. You know what I'm saying? So the fact that you pushed all the way through, finished a bad game that was so bad that made you sell a system regardless of anything else that was on it? Come on, bro. I call cap on that. Not to mention, he also says this.
And the game, which started off having a cool new villain for once, just throws away its new idea for Ganon for the millionth time. Ganon for the millionth time. Ganon for the millionth time.
Wait a minute!
This is Ganon. He is not in Skyward Sword at all. He's not in there at all. He's not in that game. Alright, him nor Ganondorf. So, who did you fight at the end of Tears of the Kingdom? Because, at the end of Skyward Sword, because I could have sworn Demise was there. I don't think it was Ganon, though. That could have been a slip of the tongue, but since you write scripts for your videos, that's a bit weird. And basically, there's a lot of salt in this video for Nintendo and Tears of the Kingdom. Like, part of the salt is, like, Nintendo's, policies when it comes to content creation and copyright claiming and striking people, which is understandable. I mean, personally, you just have to learn how to edit the videos and have B-roll in there, maybe put yourself in the video so it's not one block of content, you know what I'm saying, that's not easily copyright claimable, you know what I'm saying. But the other thing is, as far as his salt for Tears of the Kingdom, I think it comes across in this clip right here.
Recently, GQ magazine asked a bunch of people who work in video games to compile a list of the best 100 games of all time. Among this list was Mass Effect 2 at number 6, The Witcher 3 at 5, Bloodborne at 4, Tetris at 3, which, I mean, I get how important it was to gaming and all that, but Tetris is better than Bloodborne? Get out of here, come on. Then The Last of Us at 2nd place, which blows my mind, cause remove that game's cutscenes and all you're left with is a standard third-person shooter. And of course, number 1, as you probably guessed, was Breath of the Wild.
So in that list, do you know what game was missing? What massive modern success in gaming was missing from that list? Elden Ring. See, you know what I'm saying? I believe that he's an Elden Ring fan, and he's kind of mad that the industry likes Tears of the Kingdom or like Zelda games or Nintendo games in general more than Elden Ring. All right, because I mean, you look at his channel art, look at the name Endymion. You know what I'm saying? All of it screams, I like Elden Ring, or I like Souls games, right? So I feel like maybe that's where this is coming from. I feel like this salt is coming from the fact that, you know, he's either jealous that people like Elden Ring, that like Tears more than Elden Ring, or he feels like the industry is not giving Elden Ring the credit it deserves, and they're giving it to Tears of the Kingdom, which he doesn't believe deserve it, even though I don't believe he's played the game yet. You know what I'm saying? And again, he could be right on this, because, you know, now that could be something that's an industry problem. All right, because the industry specifically they had some issues with Elden Ring because Elden Ring was better than the stuff that they were making at the time. You know what I'm saying? But for him to come across this salty feels kind of crazy. You know, and the next person we're going to talk about maybe even saltier than him. And speaking of salt for the salt, guys, we have the review that he cited in his video. The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom review. These tears are salty. That's what he said at the top of the review. The guy who wrote this. I forgot his name. But he's over at Ginfinity. Alright, and the follow-up to the divisive modern masterpiece struggles to cater to those who miss its roots. Alright, I'm just going to kind of breeze through this. If you want to read the entire review yourself, you can. He's right about some things, but this review comes across as weird. So, right out of the gate, I'll say that Hyrule is largely the same as you left it after Link and Zelda get a bit too Indiana Jones for their own good. Some characters have moved around, and some of your favorite NPC hotspots are teaming with monsters. You know, for the most part, it's the exact same biodiverse world explored all those years ago, only with more natural caves, sprawling underground chasm, and frankly, too many rock formations in the sky to really care about. So he complains about the game being the same, but he ignores all of the new stuff in the game. Oh, well, the Sky Islands, which is arguably the biggest new portion of the map, oh, there's too much for that for me to care about. But that's why it's there, to add to the map. Like, yeah, the ground map is the same, but it's almost a whole nother world on top of that world. And he's like, no, that's too much for me to care about. But the world's the same, though. So, okay. New tales are spun throughout it, yet each one has a disappointing air of familiarity, which is like, you miss the old stuff and you miss the familiar stuff, but you're mad about the familiarity in the game. Okay. Alright, homie. You know what I'm saying? Then he says oddball characters like Beetle and the Great Fairies are still kicking about, but I miss the pep of the Running Man, Mallow, Zill, Agatha, and the Happy Mask Salesman, all of whom somehow gave memorable performance through grunts, giggles, and grins while barely saying a spoken word. The character writing worked wonders, sending shivers down my spine in the early days, but I don't think that happened once throughout my playthrough of Tears of the Kingdom. You know what I'm saying? And then to cap it all off, he says, if you've yet to step into the open world of Hyrule, Tears of the Kingdom is the best way to experience it, with just enough new ground to keep things interesting. But if you didn't gel with the 2017 release, the story alone might not be worth a second attempt. This review reads as somebody who basically they are an old school Zelda fan and they don't like new school Zelda. You know what I'm saying? This feels like somebody that played like Fire Emblem 4, like, you know, originally back in the day, and they're trying to review Engage now. You know what I'm saying? And it doesn't really work. You know what I'm saying? That's what this comes across as. This doesn't come across as a review as much as it comes across as an editorial about the older games. All right, so that's about it for this one. I actually found a whole lot of more. There's a whole lot more salt about Tears of the Kingdom, including some game devs and a bunch of people on Twitter. So I think I'm gonna do another part to this. I think I'm gonna do a part 2 where I go over the Twitter backlash. So that's about it. Of course, like, comment, subscribe, and as always, people, keep it real.